Welcome to this tutorial on the trendy and versatile 2-block haircut. In this video, I'll explore and show a number of techniques that will allow you to create your own version of this with the skills you're going to learn. I'm going to start nice and easy with a number 3 on the clipper. And I don't want to follow the shape of the skull. I want to curve out in a sort of a C motion with the clipper. So we're going to go in right at the nape of the neck, even pressure on the head, and just curve out away from the head. So we're not going up very high with the clipper. It's below the occipital bone. That's that bone that sticks out the most, that if you watch my videos, you'll know a lot about. That bone that sticks out, the occipital ridge, there it is there. So even though the clipper guard is going up a little bit higher than that, you need to remember that it's not touching the head at that point. I'm making it get longer. I'm curving away from the head as I move up with the clipper. While we watch this, where does the name 2-block come from? Well, it just means that the hair is cut effectively in 2 blocks. One block being the back and sides, and the other block being the top. So step to the side here. We'll just cover the whole back area with this number 3 now. There's a lot of work to do on this back area here, and I'm going to stay on the back area and we'll do all of that so you can see every technique that I use. I want you to see exactly how I fine-tune it right at the start of this video. I want to effectively create a taper. That's what I want to do at the back. So I'm going in with a 0. That's the lever closed, no guard on the clipper, and I'm going to make a straight line across the back. So it's going to be very square. I'm not going to follow the curvature of the hairline, just completely straight. And then what we'll do is lift that line up higher and higher with longer grades. So the first longer grade will be the half. That's the lever pushed down. So some people call it the open position. A taper, if you've not heard that term, is basically where the hair just disappears down into nothing at the back of the neck. Let's step up now. The number 1 guard is on the clipper and I'm going to go up a little bit higher. Now watch the technique. What I do is I just attack the line. So when the clipper touches that line, I just flick it away. That's all I want to cut. I don't want to go up too high. Just attack the line with the clipper. When it touches it, flick the clipper out, and that's plenty. Don't go any higher because that will cause you problems with your taper. Well, that's certainly my technique anyway. This is a nape whorl. So the hair is not growing straight down. It's actually growing kind of sideways, almost up, which means I need to go down with the clipper on that. Okay, let's move that lever. We'll get a little bit longer, and I'm just going to work my way up a little bit higher now on the taper. Now you can see it's starting to form a little bit of a taper. It's not quite there yet. So just again, make sure you're not going too high, you're just flicking the clipper. Something I want to say about this 2-block haircut is that I'm getting a lot of requests for 2-block haircuts. I don't know about you. Tell me down below if you get a lot of requests for this type of thing. Maybe they don't call it a 2-block. Maybe they call it something else, but I'm definitely getting a lot of requests for this. I'm getting a lot less people asking for a fade nowadays, which makes me think, is a fade fading away? I don't know. I only go with what the clients ask for, and I kind of go with their kind of trends. This is certainly something that's coming into fashion in a big way right now. So a number 2 now on the back. This is the last part to join into that 3 that we did initially. Yeah, tell me what you think. It's a really interesting discussion point because I think every haircut has its time in the sun. A fade has been around for like 10 years now, but I do sense that young people want to do more with their hair. They don't want to cut half of it off. I'm fine with that. I'll cut whatever they want, but we need to know how to do it when they do ask. So I hope this tutorial is coming in useful so far. At the back, let's frame it, okay? We're staying on the back right now. Let's get these straight lines really, really straight down the back, and that's going to give us this beautiful finish to the taper. This is easily my favorite part of the haircut. I don't save the best to last. I'm doing it now. I love to see how crisp it can turn out. The same on the other side. Now, by the way, when you're framing like this, jet black hair is probably the hair that's going to stand out the most on. The lighter the hair gets, the less definition that you have. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. It just, you know, don't beat yourself up if you do this and you're not getting that same kind of crispy definition. Now, we need to debulk this, okay? So we'll take some sections, pull them out from the head at the back, and take a good amount off. But I need to keep enough length so that it lies down all the way down onto the occipital bone. So I cut that away, and I want to look to see if I can find some short hair. There it is. So I'm roughly cutting about the same length off with each section on the back here. By the way, it doesn't matter if it's not perfect at this stage. This is debulking. We're taking the bulk down, and it's going to be refined a little bit better. It's going to be refined really nicely with some scissor over comb, which if you watch this channel, you've probably seen a few times, but let's watch how I get myself down into that taper, how I join down into it. There's that short hair again. So we're going to take sections working from the top down towards the bottom and refine and taper. So we're stepping down each time, scissor in, comb underneath, pick up the hair and just keep working your way down. As you get nearer the bottom, you'll probably find there's less hair coming off. And that means that you're getting closer to your taper, your short hair, and you should probably stop cutting. Go back up to the top and start working your way down again. It's easier this because we debulked. If there's too much hair, it's actually quite difficult to scissor over comb. Now, scissor over comb is a method where you don't use tension on the hair. You don't pull the hair out with your fingers. You just use the scissors. It's relaxed. It's as the hair would sit in its natural state. So I quite like that. I like to see how the hair falls as it is being cut. It gives me an idea of how the haircut is progressing. It's worth learning how to do this. I really encourage you to learn this style of cutting. It's going to be useful for you. You will use it day in and day out in the barbershop if you can do it, and it's great for cutting longer hair. So one of the things about the 2-block haircut, this one, I'm going to finish it with a middle part. So it's going to be swept to the side, getting longer towards the front. Other 2-block haircuts, sometimes they're a bit more kind of like an Edgar, you know, they're pulled forwards. But it doesn't matter. You can interpret the top any way you want. The main thing is that it's basically cut in 2 blocks. That's the gist of it. So over here on the sides now, what we need to do is form a sort of a ridge, and that ridge is going to support the hair that is swept over from the top. So clip it in, number 3. Remember, we worked up with a number 3 on the back. And what I'm going to do, you see my comb there, I'm bringing it down to where I think that ridge is going to be. I don't want the hair to rise above that, so the comb is guiding me, and I'm going to work my way towards the back. My ridge is going to dip down because remember, we want to come down towards our taper. Now, it doesn't look too neat right now. That's okay. We're going to go in and taper this a little bit and neaten it up. You need that guide. I think you need to go in with the 3 just to get rid of the bulk, and then you can work up from there. So a half position, the lever down on the open blade, and just take the sideburn away and then clean it up with a 0. That's not going to take much work at all. Okay, now we can have the number 1, and you're just going to go in and bite at that line again, okay? Take that line out, and then what we'll do is we'll go straight onto the 1.5 from there. So just push the lever down and work you up a little bit higher. Now, it's important that you don't go too high. Don't go into the ridge. You can use trimmer over comb if you want to refine that sort of clipper work. But now what I'm going to do is I'll use the corner of the trimmer blade. I'm going to curve here, make a little curvature. It is kind of popping, but I'm not really that concerned about making that very bold. It is fine like that. But remember that there's going to be a lot of hair falling over the top of that area, so you're not going to see it most of the time. Don't fuss too much. I'll make it nice and clean around the ear. You will see that, so let's try and make a nice round curve. Now look, there's a little bit down here, down just behind the back of the ear where it's actually not very straight. Let me just illustrate that for you right now. You see, not very straight. I need to do something about that. I can't leave it like that. That's a very visible part of the haircut. So just go back and refine that a little bit, make that a bit straighter. I hope this is all making sense to you so far. If there's any questions at this stage, just ask and I'll try and answer them in the comments. On the top, what I want to do is I'm going to cut a strip down the middle. I'm doing that to soften the final look. So the longest part of the hair here is right in the very middle because it has to reach all the way down. But I'm going to kind of layer this middle part in. Layering it means that it's going to be slightly shorter higher up and it's not going to reach all the way down to the edges. Working from the back, I'm just going to take quite a long section and I'm going to take the middle out. This is the only strip I'm taking from the top like this, and then we're going to cut the sides separately, but I'm going to work my way forward in sections and it's going to be methodical. You can see each time you take a section how much hair you took off the last time, and we'll just work to that from the back towards the front. Now, if you like my method of teaching, if you're a visual learner, I do have my own course online and I'm going to leave a link in the description down below. And if you're interested in learning a bit more with me, you'll find more of my content over there where I go a bit more in depth. We go into the layers of the scalp, into what hair is made of, and I go in depth into various haircuts as well. So I'll continue working my way towards the front. We're almost there now, pulling it right up. You can actually, I would say, pull it back a little bit on the front, okay? And that's actually going to protect the length of the front. You don't need to worry about how long it is at the front if you're pulling it all the way back. So let's get on to these sides here. Let's comb this down. What we need at the back is a marker point, and I want it to get longer towards the front. So all these sections, I'm going to pull them all the way back to my marker point, and then I'm going to cut at the marker point. So the section is pulled out vertically from the side of the head, and each time I collect another section, I'm going to pull it back towards the marker point. What's the purpose of this? Well, the purpose is that as you work your way towards the front, the hair has a long way to travel all the way back to the marker point. Each time you're pulling it all the way back, it has to get longer and longer. And by the time you get to the front, it's got to be very long to reach all the way back to that marker point. What does that mean? That means that we're going to get that graduation of short towards long towards the front of the face. You see how there's like a sort of a perimeter around the cheekbone area, and it kind of, it's like a triangle, I suppose. And the triangle would be like from the top of the head, down the front of the face, and then back towards your marker point. That's part of the effect of this haircut. It's part of the effect of the 2-block, is to have all that mass on the top, but to actually be doing something with it. I really love this method of cutting. If you want to get really technical, it's what you would call a compound over direction. There's a great word for you because you're actually over directing from the top and you're over directing from the side. So you're pulling it back from the top and you're pulling it back from the side all towards one point, and then you get this beautiful kind of shape, this triangular shape. Once you've cut that, I'm going to go in, I'm going to put my scissor in, and I'm going to take very broad sections of hair and just take about 1 centimeter off, working my way towards the bottom. This is going to soften the edge. Okay, so I'm taking a little bit of hair from higher up from the very perimeter just to soften the edge of the perimeter, so I don't have a lot of weight just all landing right at the very edge of that triangular shape. I am quite fortunate here that my model has got probably the perfect hair for this. But you know, another sort of hair that's really good for this is wavy hair, like kind of long wavy hair, and you can just style it differently. You can do anything you want with this type of haircut, okay? So anything that's around about the lengths that you see here, either on the side or on the top, you can cut to that length and you can style it any way you want. I'm just pulling back on the other side here, just repeating what I did on the top. Now, the 2-block should be completely disconnected, but you can see that I have actually connected the back. I felt like in my interpretation of this, I wanted to connect the back, and I feel like it sits better that way anyway. I don't know how you would interpret it. Something you could do is add a lot of texture to this with texture scissors. You could slice it. If you want to know more about slicing, there is some about slicing in my course, bias cutting and other texture techniques. Or you could razor this and you could add a lot of texture. I don't think it needs it. I actually don't think this haircut even needs product at the end. You're going to see it just kind of like sits so perfectly. It kind of tumbles, it sweeps back. It's the kind of haircut all you need to do is basically just put your fingers through it, you know, sweep it back with your hand. I do believe that you should use the least amount of product necessary to get hair to do what you want it to do. And if it's sitting okay, leave it. Don't muck about with it. Okay, this looks like it's fallen quite well. I'm going to give this a good dry off now, and I'm just blow drying it back. It's not going to sit like that. It's not going to sit blow dried back. It'll give it a little bit of lift on the root. So close to the root, it lifts it up. It makes it a bit more bouncy, but then it'll fall to the side, and it's going to look great. So I'll just run the comb through this here. I like to check over when I blow dry, have a good look. These pompadour combs are great for finishing. They leave a nice texture when you run them through the hair. I'll get my little foil shaver here and I'll just trim any kind of like stubble that's there, make it extra clean. Do whatever you can to really polish your haircuts. I think that makes all the difference. So here we go. I mean, what do you think? I think it's sitting quite well. You see how it tumbles there at the front? I love that. You know, it just sits. It doesn't need any product. You could just run your hands through it. Easy, low maintenance, you know, through the day. You know, if you're chatting to people, you know, and your hair falls out of place, you can just run your hands through it and it's back to normal. Well, tell me what you think. Hit me with any questions. I'd love to answer them. I hope you enjoyed this video. I really wish you all the best with your 2-block haircuts. If you do one, if you're cutting someone's hair like this, let me know in the comments how you got on. And I'll see you in my next video.